Hello and welcome to this art review. Um, I want to do this because previously I had done this and it was pretty fun to look at the art together. And at this time I did it a little bit better because the previous time I just opened all of them and it overloaded my computer because there were 400 Chrome tabs open. Plus I redid the outlines of the OBS a bit better. So this should be a little bit more fun to watch in that regard. Yeah, so today we will not be looking through a lot of them. We will just be looking through 10. And if we want to do more, we'll look at more. Yeah, that's it. So let's just begin. Because it's a pretty fun way for me to look through the cards because now we get to see some old cards that just now got their um, art released, as in usually the artist can't show you the fully rendered version of the art. And whenever they do review it, it does go onto the internet really fast, so you can look at it after that. Um, yeah, so what that means is that we can look at some old cards here from, I believe, at least somewhere Amonkhet, and we see someone rebelling against their training, so it might be a little bit later in the couple of sets. We see Etta, initiate of the Red Group, and the Red Group, if I remember correctly, was a group uh, all about magic. They did have some spear wielders. I think there's a red spear soldier or something. Um, and But usually they use a lot of magic in their initiations, and this time they use it to stop time in a way, or at least to not have it measured. And I think that is a pretty cool flavor as well, because the card says draw some cards, and it depends on how well you destroy your hourglass, how far you can extend your training time. So let's move on. We have Stromberg Blood Thief. This is a pretty cool art, and in the thumbnail for this stream, I had turned it around, and the face really surprised me. I don't know if I can do it. Well, I think I could. Um, Wait, this is worth it, believe me. I think like this. Yes. So it is a little bit weird, but I had never thought about the face as much, and yeah, it's really different from how it looks the other way around. Maybe you can see it from the card still. Um, yeah, so I think that's really cool, but also the pose is really, I think, maybe inspiring in the way how she moves around. And the flavor here is that, of course, we are around the time of Crimson Vow. We are in the other set about the werewolves of a Midnight Hunt. But we get some hints from what's happening in the vampire world as well in this set. People even joked, I believe, that the set was more of a vampire set because there were so many strong vampires in there, and people who were werewolf fans were a bit disappointed by that. But we see a little bit of a glimpse here, like I said. So with House Voldaren Ascendant, so of course they got a lot more power from marrying into the strongest family on Innistrad. But with them Ascendant, some members of the Stromberg line took it upon themselves to borrow from the blood tithes. So something the Voldaren do is live very close to humans, which is a little bit weird for many vampires. So that's a pretty. Oh. I really can multitask. So wait a bit. One interesting point here is that the Stromberg wouldn't really do this. They are people that live by the sea. They like to be alone. The sea on Innistrad is a place where you will be pretty alone because no one dares to come there. Yeah, so that is a really cool little bit of flavor that they do come out into the city to steal from them. And that is why we see such a stealthy vampire as well. And I think they do that very well. We don't really see that they are stealthy, but they are moving over the rooftops. We see their footprints. Yes, they don't mind being followed. They will win many battles anyways. But they don't like to be seen by the humans because they don't like the interaction. I think that's pretty cool. What I also like about this is that we see it's in wintertime, and that fits really well with the bleak outline of a vampire. Other than that, I really like the little bits of red because your card will be very small, of course, when you look at it. But vampires are black red, so that is a win for the color scheme. But it is also something that makes you think of blood, so that is, of course, a flavor win here as well with a vampire who likes blood, usually. Then we have a pretty cool one. We have, because this is Platinum Angel, but not just Platinum Angel. It is one from the Brothers War set, where we see their sort of design. There we see that Karn says that he believes that, yes, Sarah built angels from the spirits of fallen warriors, but I believe a more mundane power source might suffice. And that's interesting because the question here is, what should they be able to do? What should an angel be able to do, and what should a platinum angel be able to do? So what we see here is, I think, designs from Karn. I didn't know he could draw that well. We see, let's see, we see the angel with their sword down, sort of the feeling of them being above you, which is common for angels. Then we see a sort of maybe shooting animation. And then this is the Fibonacci sequence that we see around it, which is pretty cool that they incorporated this. And then we see some birds, maybe like they took inspiration, maybe the artist as well, the real artist. I mean, Karn is, of course, as well, the real artist. Took inspiration from these birds as well, or at least their wings. And then we see more of the flowy parts of a real angel. So that is what it was made after. So that's really just a story that it was an angel built to be an angel, but it fails a little bit because it's so well differently designed. Because an angel shouldn't be designed; they will be perfect of their own accord, but there will be flows and things that you might never draw out. So there's a little bit of a difference there. So that's a pretty cool, deeper flavor. Then we have Bright Reprisal, a 5-mana card about destroying an attacking creature. So it is a defensive card. Here we see a vampire on Ixalan attacking a dinosaur, so that doesn't seem very defensive. But the point here is that when they have attacked, they have stepped out of line, so they show their weak point. And then the flavor tells us vampires know blood and the systems that carry it, and they know exactly where to strike. So it's a sort of precision strike is the thing that we are seeing here, while as well, a pretty cool part is that we are in a pretty dark jungle. And the light is coming from a vampire. Usually they don't really like light, but these vampires from Ixalan really do like light and the sun. They can be in it as well, even though I think it makes them a little bit slower or something like that. They all can live with the sun. They are called the Legion of Dusk, I think. Dusk, I think. But still, they can still survive there. It's just that they will bring eternal darkness and like that more. But they can use light, and I think that's a cool part about these vampires having become an Orzhov faction. Then we have Scourge Wolf, which is from an older Innistrad. And this is a little bit of a card art that has been made to be scary. And I can appreciate that as well. What we definitely see is a wolf that gets double strike, so that is, I think, because it has 2 fangs. And look at this. How do you think of that? But that is definitely an eldritch horror, what we see here. And their skin has been bitten away and stuff like that, but they don't care. They move on. They have extra eyes, which are unnerving, but the most unnerving part is, of course, the thing that is in the foreground, which needs to be the case for art in a card, which is that their jaw has been ripped apart in this fashion. And I think that is morbid creativity, but it is creativity still. Then we move on to Treacherous Strain, where we see the terrain of, I think Ravnica, but I'm not sure. Falling apart. Does it say ZNC? I'm not sure. Yeah, it's falling apart and the world is crumbling, and that is definitely a cruel bit of flavor. We also see the fire coming from the ground, a bit of lava. I think the red part of this likes that, and they use trees to show that there's still the green part. That is interesting because you always need to find a way to incorporate the colors of your card into the art. And if you were asked to make something in a city with these colors, then that might be pretty hard, as the rest of it is pretty grayed out of the city. That is. So that is some cool design that they made it rupture apart this hard, and that is possible because it is an 8 mana card. It is such a big impact card, and it should feel like it has big impact. And one cool thing that they did to show this as well is make the towers fall over, and it would be unnatural if you would make all of these ground level buildings fall over. They still do a little bit, but less. But these large towers, you feel like they should fall first. And that makes the piece extra dynamic, as the ground goes like this, maybe a bit in a curve. These wisps of smoke curve up, and then the towers themselves even curve up and have sand falling down, which gives this card its massive impact, which it should have. Then we have from, I thought Pharaohs, but it's not. I'm not sure. We have Omen Speaker. Her prophecies amaze her even as she speaks them, is what the flavor says. And something I really like about this one is that we see different ways of using light. And so, which is the first thing that came to my mind, but there's way more to this. We have the blue eyes that are sort of shining, and that is one way, of course, to start making a piece feel blue. We have the marble, which is actually gray, but it feels blue as well. And then the shadow, which really gives this, what feels like a bottle of water, a different kind of texture. So it feels now, because of the shadow, that this is also just a piece of this cloth. So that makes it really double, because it might feel like it is a bottle that she's standing in, but it might also just be cloth. But then again, her leg is going through the water, then I would assume. So yeah, we're really left wondering what this is. So you have to look a bit longer, and it makes the piece feel really magical. Then we have the moment on Amonkhet where the planeswalkers went through the Hexa, the barrier of the city. of course, they got to make the 5 planeswalkers, which is kind of a cool project on its own. I can zoom this in a bit. Oh, it zooms everything in. That's not cool. That's not cool. But we also see a little bit of their personalities. We see Gideon walking in front, so they had to choose that, of course, and then maybe Nissa walking a bit in the back, and Chandra still a bit sick. So she isn't in front, which is a bit weird for her, of course. Then we have Liliana, who is sort of touching the magic, maybe interested by it or seeing a chance to take its power, but she also seems a little bit preoccupied, which she should be at this moment because of what she will do later in the story and what she's thinking about. And then Jace, who is opening the gate into wonder. But they are also looking here at something of a peaceful side, which they could still do in the first set of Amonkhet. And we see in the background a little bit of pink, a little bit of blue, some soft colors that are making us feel more at ease. But that is strange as we are walking, as the flavor says, into a world, what does it say exactly? Ruled by Nicol Bolas. So yeah, that feels a little bit strange. So we immediately wonder what's going on here. So I think this is a very powerful piece for that. So I don't check these, but this is Combustion Templar. This is a little bit of an older one. They really were late with releasing this piece of art. But I think that's cool too, because what year is this from? Like before 2000. That is really interesting. Because at that point, I feel like Magic still took or started to take a lot more inspiration from normal fantasy. And here we see, I guess, Just the Night. Of course, he is Combustion, so that is not normal anymore. But yeah, for the art, it does feel that way. It is not too much background. We see a little bit of ground, and then a shining shield with an aura, which is a cool aura as it moves in a let's say orderly way, which is very befitting of the color, of course. And then Just a Night. So that's pretty cool. And this weird one to top it off, which is just an abomination, a falcon abomination. But I had never looked at this one before. And what we see is a zombie, that first of all, but it's a zombie bird. And also it has changed a lot from its Aven counterpart. And also it feels like it's just a human head stitched onto it. So maybe that is what changed here. Oh, and maybe the body then. So a little bit of a giant body stitched to it to make it have more impact, maybe. That's what the stitches do, of course. And of course the joke, the foulest of foul. But yeah. What I also like about this is we are at Midnight Hunt, and we start to see these pieces of light in the background, but they have sort of taken them away because they chose to make the sort of yellow light fit the green and white colors more. So, but it's cool that they kept it in, but it's more in the background. So Hope for Humanity is more in the background for this art. Then we see that we're in a harbor town, and it's a little bit of a an irony, maybe, that the stitched falcon meets his other falcon counterpart. And I think, which is the last thing I will leave you with, that this might be the first time we saw a bird person on Innistrad. So, who knew? In any case, have a nice day. I will do these more often. It was pretty fun. And bye.